I call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. For the audience here tonight, the City of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow for participation both in person and virtually. In consideration of others and the business conducted tonight, please silence your phones and any electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this evening. Madam Clerk, will you please conduct roll call?
Thank you, President. At this time, I will conduct an oral roll call and request that each trustee respond with present when their name is called. Trustee Chu? Present. Trustee Flowers has an excused absent. Trustee Tolan?
Present.
Vice President Johnson?
Present.
President Landman?
Present.
Let the record show 4 trustees are here with the excused absent of Trustee Flowers.
Hey, I would like to invite the Deputy City Clerk to say the pledge.
Can we all stand? Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I always end up rushing, but sorry. Okay. All right. Does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda? Okay. I'd like to open a public comment period. Have we received any public comment requests?
We have not, and we also do not have anyone on Zoom.
Okay. All right, then could I go ahead and close the public comment period? Okay. Does any trustee have any reports or announcements?
I do.
Okay.
I attended the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation quarterly board meeting. It was held on February 1st. And there were several things, exciting things that they have going on. They are going through their grant process to make their, and they should have those out to the library, or sorry, they are going through the grant processes that they've received from the library, and they are going to have their, and we'll be looking through them over the next 2 months in March and April. They also are putting on the Great Trivia Challenge. It's their 32nd annual Great Trivia Challenge. It's on Friday, March 8th at 7 p.m. at Foothill Christian School. The tickets are $25 and it includes dinner with the In-N-Out truck. So hopefully there's a big attendance on that. And a couple of us are going to be serving as judges. So it's going to be an exciting night. And the last thing is they've picked the night for Night on the Plaza. It is going to be on July 13th, 2024. So look for more to come on that. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Toland. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? I would like to say one thing. Happy birthday, Trustee Chu.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, happy birthday to you. Belated birthday.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, it's a big month for us. So that's cool. Okay. And I have a couple things. I just had a question regarding the badge exhibit. Do you think, where the badge exhibit may resurface? I don't know. So,
So yeah, we'll have Cindy Romero come up and answer that question.
The contest itself will launch this Friday on March 1st. Oh, almost said May 1st. And it'll run for a month. And then we will be announcing before the beginning of May. We are looking to see if we'll either recreate it in the same way that we did last year or something else. We will have something. We just don't know exactly what shape it'll take yet.
awesome. Okay, can't wait. That was a fun event. And also, yes, I will be one of the judges at Trivia Challenge. So hopefully we're good judges. Okay, we've never done that before, so that's cool. Also, I have a question. The board is going to have vacancies coming up. When do we need to turn in paperwork for that?
Thank you for that question. I will give you that information once I have confirmed with our city clerk.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there's going to be a report from the library director, Janet Stone. Would you like to report?
Thank you very much. Happy birthday, both of you, right off the top. As usual, there's a report from the director and the library divisions in your packet, which is available to the public online. And rather than go through that in detail, since it's available, we will just provide some updates to it that happened since it went to press, so to speak. First of all, since the last Board of Library Trustees meeting, we did continue collecting the responses to our music survey, how the public experiences music and what challenges they have to enjoying it. And I just wanted to share that although we did indeed confirm, as was discussed at the last meeting, that, surprise, surprise, more people stream than listen to CDs. I think we all could have guessed that one. It's confirmed. Really, one of the main things that we were looking at, besides how people like to experience their music, is also that question about the challenges. I mean, that was really sort of the meat of the survey, is trying to figure out where the gaps were. And so we talked about this a little bit last month. I just wanted to share that streaming and live music were the top ways that people like to listen. So that's an interesting thing for us to keep in mind. They were neck and neck. Streaming came out like 1 point ahead of live music. So that's an interesting thing for us to remember in terms of connecting people with music the way they like. And then that, like I said, that meat of it, what challenges they experienced. First on the list was time, that they felt there was a lot of other things that were competing for their time. Some people said they didn't actually have any of that. The next highest one was actually they didn't find any challenges. Important to understand about the sample that we took. Some of them, it was the cost of the subscriptions and that there were too many ads. And then finally finding content. So there are several opportunities for us there in terms of that live music component that we need to keep in mind, and also this idea of first of all making sure that people know that we have low cost, subsidized content, right? And also that we maybe have some opportunities on how to enable people to find it if that's one of the challenges they have. So I know that came up last month, and we got some additional data about that since then. All right. Also, in the intervening weeks, on Tuesday, February 13th, the City Council awarded a contract for city facilities security assessment and installation. And just wanted to confirm that the library is there. That whole packet and the whole proposal and the schematics and everything are available online. There are library measures included in that. And just to share that I am currently working with IT and Public Works to make sure that all of the recommended measures that have come up for the library are indeed included in that. So, so stay tuned for more about those installations. All right, let's see here. Also, working our way up to current date, we did have an interesting, another, I should say, interesting installment of the Teen Idea Lab. And that was for teens aged 10 through 17 who practiced their critical thinking and problem-solving skills as they developed buildings that withstand an earthquake simulation. Anyway, that was an event that popped up in between our reports. And bringing up to current days, many people might be wondering how we are weathering all of the weather. And as I mentioned at City Council most recently, the building has been leaking since its early days. We have, I think, reports in local city news back to 1978, around there, where the building was about 6 years old. It's been leaking ever since. So many of the wet spots in the library are what I call old friends. And we have worked out ways to protect the materials from that. And we did this time because of the really wet February we've had. We have had some older leaks that we haven't seen for a while return to the library. And in fact, one brand new one. So we are in constant contact with Public Works. We're very grateful to them for their ongoing assistance to make sure that the facility stays habitable and the materials stay safe. And just to remind everybody that we did have it mold tested last summer, and we are planning to do that every year. So and the last time, it came out completely clear. So we are good to go there. Let's see here. You will see in the written report that we have offered to local coffee houses a packet that connects their users, their coffee drinkers, to opportunities for subsidized free cost to them reading materials online. We have a huge online library that's very easily accessible by device, and we've sent out QR code materials free of charge and offered them to the coffee houses. And we have seen at least one of those go up for the public, and it's early days, but we've already had 17 of those scanned for people who are looking for stuff to read when they are out with their cup of coffee. And we are looking at sending those similar packets like that to other kinds of agencies where we know that people are sitting around waiting, looking for stuff to do, and might need easy ways to connect with reading materials. Okay, let's see here. We have had on our standard fiscal year workflow for a while that we would be doing a mid-year budget report that was supposed to go along with our statistics and goals. And just wanted to pass along the word that finance, they said to share this. Finance is working on getting everything current, and there is a new system, citywide system for tracking and handling financial accounts and many other aspects of city business. And it's known as an enterprise resource program, ERP system. And they basically implement that in different modules and stages. And in December, they did a hard cutover to transfer the finance aspects of the old system to the new system. And so, as they said, in the meantime, we're working on getting everything current and trying to figure everything out about it in terms of how to get the reports that would be useful to you out of that new system. So stay tuned. We expect to have those available for you in March. It's exciting. There are a lot of things about it that are going to be easier to use. And there's always just a little bit of a road like this when you're migrating a system that large, because it touches so many aspects of city business. So there's that. I would think it would be fair to say that project, this huge citywide conglomeration of systems, the migration of that is also one of the things that has impacted our classification study. I know there was some concern was expressed about how long the classification study is taking. That is certainly not the only factor, but I think that transition is impacting a lot of the teams that work on projects like the classification study. I did, because of the questions that were expressed, I did go back and sort of run myself through a timeline of everything that had happened so far to see what I could report back on. Just on broad strokes, there were about 25 different steps over the last year to that project. Around step number 18, the consultant came and reported to us that they had done some among all the research that they had done about our staff and our classifications, that they were also doing some work looking around at the current industry to see what, what they could use and recommend to us. And at that meeting, and this was back in August, they reported that they said there's a fair amount of agreement out there in the industry regarding the need to modernize. However, they said that this library is ahead of the curve in terms of how people articulate how library services the community. And he said there aren't any models for this already out there, and they have not come across another library that is as prepared to make this transition as we are. So they said we're going to be a little bit of a kind of pie in the air, was I think the phrase they used. And they said most organizations are not trying to articulate the new mindset yet. So that is one of the explanations for why at that time, later, a few months later in the fall, we had to have a talk about extending the contract, because it was not, it's not a standard classification study for them. They are having to create a lot of things from whole cloth. So those discussions about extending the contract started last fall, and that extension was just signed this month, and we will be getting back to the table with them it's scheduled tentatively for March 14th. So I just wanted to make sure that I explained a little bit about how that process was going and why it was not as swift as a formulaic one would be. I think it's good news in that it means we're really preparing ourselves for the future, but it does mean it's what do they sometimes refer to it as, a bleeding edge process. So there's that. Now, looking forward a little bit into the future, I did want to share that Washington Elementary School is planning for Read Across America Day, and they are hoping to have members from the community read in their classrooms. The one big day will be on Wednesday, March 6th, and they would be happy to have readers. So you can either contact the principal at Washington Elementary, or if you like, you can just call the library, and our staff can get word to Library Services Manager Cindy Romero, and we can pass the word along that you might like to read. And for those who haven't read in front of a classroom of children for a while, it is a delight. It can totally make your day. So. Okay. And then usually, as usual, the last thing in the report from the director and the divisions is a statistics summary. And I just wanted to comment on a few things that are going on in that summary and the statistics that feed into it. Because as you know, you see those a couple of times a year, and there are many, many pages of statistics that feed that summary. So a couple of things that you might be interested to know. For example, the library document station customers and usage is growing, and part of that is because our customers are becoming more aware of their ability to scan and email things through that document station, and those weren't available before. So hopefully that will continue to serve customers and meet that need. We didn't have any customer interactions, interestingly enough, from our computer center volunteers in January. So staff is going to be looking into that to try and figure out what might have been impacting that, and if there are things we need to adjust to make sure that we are still meeting the needs of our computer users with those volunteers. The on-site and off-site and virtual programs sort of cluster of things that will and the attendance at those, they fluctuate through the year as staff offers programs in different locations. And so one example was that last year, the Lefetra Health Fair was in January, and this year it was in February. So sometimes you can see the months have fairly large changes just because of how those events are scheduled. Also, volunteer hours fluctuate during the year, and one sort of shift that you will see, that you would see in the underlying statistics, for example, is that unlike some past years, we did not use any volunteers for the winter reading challenge. So the statistics that feed into that would reflect that as well. Let's see here. We are starting to do a monthly email using our Constant Contact subscription, just to key our are opted-in users with different library service each month that we highlight. And so we're going to start to see those numbers, publications and that are produced, printed or emailed is going to start going up because of that interaction that we are doing now. And let's see here. And we are working on trying to restore some access to some volunteer match statistics that we've had challenges getting recently. So those things you may see impact the statistics summary. And that is everything I have to bring the written report up to date from when we completed the packet. I'm happy to answer any questions or to take notes and bring you answers later if we don't know them tonight.
Thank you, Director Stone. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one question, actually two questions. Since the rain has started, do we have any patrons like complaining about the rain in the library, or do they like notice it and come over and ask staff what's going on? Like, are they concerned about those leaks in the library?
So I think what I may do is ask the team leaders of our two public service points teams, each of them to share if they've heard anything.
So the only thing really that we'll hear is people will comment on it. They'll comment on the number of buckets, things like that, and they'll ask what's being done. So we can respond, that city council, has met with the library board and is looking at different avenues to fix it. But that's the only thing really that I've heard through my staff.
And I will just echo what Cindy has said, just as they're coming up to check out or things like that, they'll comment on the buckets but no real concern. So yeah, thanks.
So you've already seen Cindy once this evening, but just to reintroduce, that's Donna Dukes, our other library services manager. Oh, no, that's okay. I just introduced you very generically. So just wanted to make sure. Did that?
Yeah, are we should we be documenting the number of comments we're receiving about the leaks in the library so that city council and other people understand that patients are noticing this and it is leaving an impact or a lasting impression on what they may or may not think about the library in a positive or maybe negative way? I just want to make sure that people still feel like we are taking care of the situation, or we're trying to, and we're in the progress. I don't know if putting up signs maybe might help alleviate that, or at least make people feel safe in the library still, or not concerned as much about it. Yeah, that's my only comment about that. I've just been thinking about that a lot lately.
Thank you.
And then my last question was in terms of the online, I've been looking for certain audiobooks for the past few months. And do we have a way for us to, because you guys aren't the vendors of the audiobooks, but do we have ways to make requests to see if they can add new audiobooks to their listings?
So which library services manager would like to answer that one?
So yes, requests can be made a couple of ways through specifically the Libby platform. If you see something there actually is a, basically send your library a request button, or just like any of our physical print collection, you can submit a request for purchase or a recommendation directly to the staff, and then we can evaluate it that way. We do, so there's a couple ways that we get that content. One way is we purchase it through a consortium. So through a whole big group of libraries so that we get more stuff than we would be able to get on our own. But then we also have a separate funding or pool of funds that we can buy things that are only available for Glendora's card holders. And so for those sorts of things, a request made through the staff is probably the best way to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Send it to me.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
Can I make a comment? Okay, so I was in the library earlier this month utilizing the services with my son, Reed, who has attended one of our meetings. And so he was fully aware of the leaking issue. So to your comment about what the impact is and what people are like, how are they reacting with what they're seeing? So he didn't understand. He's hearing about the leaks and whatever, but then I said, I want to show you what we were talking about in the meeting. So I kind of walked him through the library and pointed out the different spots, and he was really taken aback that the visuals of like, it visually looks very serious. You know, there's leaks in a lot of different places. So what's discussed versus like the visual impact of actually seeing it yourself is really like a wow moment. So to your point, I think that's important that the public's coming in and you're not only seeing one bucket, but you're seeing multiple buckets, and then, you know, the plastic tarping over things and then limited access in certain areas. So we might want to think about putting out signage to say, you know, this is a problem that is being effectively addressed in a systematic way, or, you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've been making notes. Also, the idea of capturing visuals. We have done, as you know, some pictorial reports to council, you know, and to you. Perhaps there's an opportunity to do that for the public as well. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you for bringing this up, Trustee Chu. I came I came on the weekend to pick up my packet. And while I was here, I'm all, you know, I'm going to take pictures of this and I'm going to post it on my little Word on the Street page on Facebook. And I did, and there was a lot of attention. And what stood out to me was at first I'm all, should I go and video this? Because you could hear the drips. You'd hear the drip, drip, you know, going into the bucket. And I'm all, and so I went around, I took the pictures, and there's like rusty, you know, rustiness and stuff going on, and fans, and it's just a very sad display for such a great city to unfortunately have this kind of crumbling, you know, appearance from the time it was 6 years old. So I just get concerned about what could possibly be lurking. I really am concerned about the mold. And as a patron, if I was coming in there with kids, I would be concerned about that. That would be my concern, like the breathing situation, but also for you guys as well. So that's.
Thank you. We will consider what might be helpful to post. And again, for any public that might be listening, we have had it tested. We will have it tested again each year. And so far, mold has not been an issue. We're guessing probably because of the actual materials used to construct a library aren't prone to that. It's not like a lot of drywall, for example. It's, you know, it's cinder block, but we're still planning to test. So that is useful feedback about reassurances. It's both awareness, right? Both awareness and reassurances. Both things are important in terms of this path toward whatever the fixes are. So I appreciate that both of those points to be made. And, you know, also, as we talk about this in the coming months, you know, the fact that the city has invested a lot both in trying to repair it, you know, 6-figure repairs to the plaza and that sort of thing. And then also, you know, they spent over $200,000 on the structural assessment that was done last year and the programmatic visioning that was done last year with this idea of trying to find a long-term solution. So yes, you're right. There are structured and intentional ways of dealing with it that are long-term, are enough that they are not immediately visible. And that's an important thing for us to remember about the public and what they're experiencing when they come in. So we will put our heads together and figure some of that out. Thank you for that feedback.
I think maybe like putting if we do come up with signage, maybe putting a QR code linking to certain board meetings where we have discussed that, because I know a lot of the public don't. I mean, at least people in my generation don't know that these kind of meetings exist and that these conversations are taking place. So giving them a direct access to a link that shows that maybe this is like, yeah, this is the stuff that has been discussed, what's in the progress, what's been done, just as you explained just now. And maybe even some people may not want to approach staff to express their concerns, but if we link them to like a contact form or a concern form where they can submit it online, and we can have even more like solid like comments about this to show if we ever need it to show for that the public is actually concerned.
Yes.
And I think that will be helpful for us now or maybe later down the road if needed.
Thank you. This should sound familiar to members of the management team, because we are constantly talking about whether it's the building or some other issue that we are trying to work with other partners to get solved. That we're always talking about collecting data, being able to log and show the actual like quantifiable impact of what's happening. So thank you for that reminder that this is one of those cases, and we'll look at some options for how to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. That's awesome. Okay, and then we have, I would like to invite the library director, Janet Stone, to report on Connect, Learn, Develop trustee training and conference opportunities.
Thank you. So go ahead and next slide, please. And next slide, please. So I want to start this out by saying that that there are a few things I discovered as we were just putting together this year's opportunities, a list for you. And so next slide, please. There are a few things that we're on them as we work through the next few slides. So first of all, discovered that at least one sort of classic that had been taken offline has now been re-released. That's and we'll be talking about that in a minute. And we're going to try and figure out the best way, now that it's been updated and ready to go, that we can make sure that the trustees have it and that it's part of their orientation and that sort of thing. So we'll see that in a moment. Also, in terms of some of these opportunities are also opportunities for staff. And we are going to be looking at ways of making sure that we can maximize some local opportunities that aren't always local, as you'll see in a moment, that are for our staff to take advantage of. And finally, it also occurred to us that this probably would be helpful to move earlier in the fiscal year, especially for trustees who are new and coming on board, so that they can see what some of the ongoing opportunities are, not just the special conferences. This was designed originally for seasonal conferences, but there's so much out there available now year round that we probably will move this to an earlier meeting in the year. Okay, so that being said, we will reveal what some of that stuff is about. Next slide, please. So first of all, the one that's been re-released, this is the California Public Library Trustees Toolkit. This was a long-standing thing that had not been updated for many, many years, and so was basically sort of pulled, rightfully so, from circulation. And it has been updated and is available now online. If you go to this presentation online, that should be clickable. If not, you can always put that URL in your browser and get to a menu that offers these resources. So that this is one that we are going to look at how to incorporate it for trustees in the future, now that it's been refreshed and is a viable source of information again. Next slide, please. Also, as part of that same pile of online information, there are some resources, like I said, that go year round, continuing education for library boards. And there's a whole list of them available. Again, we've put the URL here. It should be clickable online. You can also Google this pretty easily. I just wanted to point out a couple of these things. We'll be talking in a moment about the Serving with a Purpose conference, but there are links to that here, as well as to resources from the American Library Association's United for Libraries, sort of, I don't know if they're officially a subdivision, but effort, which provides a lot of training for trustees. So lots of resources there that are available year round, and we will be looking at making sure that incoming trustees know about those things. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to point out that if you go in and look at those lists of resources online, there are a couple of caveats that I think are important to note. First of all, the resources they point to are not intended as legal advice, and trustees should always consult their jurisdiction about what really applies locally. And they even go as far as to point out that there are resources there that are great for trustees that are developed by states all over the country. And some of those contents are specific to those state laws and will be different for California. So my suggestion for Glendora is, thank you. You just come to me, and if we need to actually ask legal, I can get you in touch with legal. But the director's office is a great place to start if you have any of those questions. And just be aware, as if you are exploring those resources on your own, that they are not all designed for California, and certainly not for Glendora in particular. All right, so that's some of the classic stuff that has returned. Next slide, please. Now we're going to look at some opportunities that are this current fiscal year. Next slide, please. So this is now is become its own classic. It's been around for, I think, at least a decade now, Serving with a Purpose. And this is upcoming on May 22nd. Next slide, please. I know you've seen this announcement already. I just wanted to, refresh in case you haven't decided whether to attend, that they are going to have fundraising and advocacy programs as part of this day-long event. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned before, American Library Association, they're United for Libraries Association within the ALA. And next slide, please. They have a lot of electronic learning opportunities, monthly webinars. They have these short takes, which are brief. I believe they're all video opportunities for different topics about being a trustee. There's a trustee academy, all sorts of things to explore. Just again, a heads up that they are not designed specifically for California nor Glendora, but they may be able to give good beginning introductory things and create questions that arise for you that you can ask us about. And if anybody explores those and has questions about which ones they think might be the most applicable to our locality, we're happy to help with that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we have a couple of things that, but one specifically that bridges literally, well, I guess it's not a literal bridge, metaphorically bridges 2 fiscal years. So if anybody has an interest in this, I just let's talk, because it's an interesting challenge to try and figure out how to manage this when, next slide, please. It literally goes, this time literally, from June 27th to July 2nd, right across that fiscal year break. And this is the American Library Association annual conference, which is relatively close in San Diego this year. And this is one of the ones that we're going to be looking at to try and see how we might be able to maximize that for staff, since it is relatively close. They have them, of course, all over the United States, and it's pretty exciting to have that, here in Southern California. Next slide, please. So these next couple of slides are just some screenshots I did after searching for trustee-related items at ALA. And you can, go to the website yourself and do this same search. Next slide, please, and see some of these different kinds of programs. I'm not sure why a couple of these came up in my search, but anyway, there certainly are things related to trustees and library boards that might be of interest. And again, if this is something that you might want to go to, I think the best thing to do is for us just to talk and figure out how we manage that with it being part of both fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25. Okay, and next slide, please. We do have something coming up in fiscal year 2025. Next slide, please. So this is another one, let's talk. This is the California Library Association Annual Conference, and this one is going to be even closer in Pasadena this year in October. And again, this is something that we will be looking at next fiscal year for taking advantage of for staff. And if any trustees are interested in that, we're happy to work with them to see what we can come up with. And this is one of the things, this kind of thing that makes us realize, okay, it's probably a good idea to pull this particular agenda item into earlier in the fiscal year, so that next year's board can start considering this right off the bat after the next term starts. So those are a bunch of different ways there that you can develop your board expertise, and I'm happy to answer any questions or get them for you get answers for you.
Does any trustee have any questions or comments?
I just have a comment. I think I really like bringing all of this to our attention, and I think it's a great idea to bring it earlier on into the this school year. Yeah, and earlier into the fiscal year, so we know what's coming up, because some of these conferences I haven't even thought about in a while since I've last seen them. But I would highly recommend. I won't be able to go to Serving with the Purpose this year, but I've gone in the past 2 years, and I really enjoy going to them because you really get a different perspective of what kind of roles other trustees play at different cities, and how some of them carry a different role than what we would do, and also the strategies they use in terms of being able to collaborate together as a team, and team building. And also just like, I know last year when I went, I had a lot of questions about like for the cities who underwent renovations, and like how did they get the public to get on board. So I think this year is really crucial to attend and ask those questions to those people who have experience in dealing with that with the public. That's it.
And I'd like to comment on the ALA conference. I've attended ALA in the past. I've presented at ALA as well. And being crafted by librarians across the nation, these are very smart people. And how they handle that conference is very interesting, because instead of like normally in, let's say it's a different like medical, they'll have a conference for this medical specialty and that medical specialty and that medical specialty. But what librarians realized was, why don't we make one gigantic conference? So you have specialists in all different areas presenting from all over the country, just the best of the best ideas. So in addition to something that would be directly applicable to our role as board members, it's just like a supercharged enhancement of looking at the best of the best programs across the nation. So maybe you didn't think, wow, maybe our public would love that program, or maybe we should investigate that further. So the amount of like brain power that is in that conference is really astonishing. And then the vendors, like just walking through the vendor room with like all of the, furnishings, and it just goes on and on. It's really, really, really worth it. So I would strongly recommend that board members make every effort to attend. And I would really be very pleased to see that staff members be funded to attend this, because it's such an enhancement professionally, and it's just re-energizes you just to attend and just be with like-minded people and have that community is really a wonderful thing. So I would really encourage that. I would love to see that. And San Diego is not as far as it usually is. You know, it's usually like Milwaukee or, you know, you're like, ah, that's a whole different price zone when you're getting on a plane than driving.
Thank you so much.
I have to go. Like, it's really good. It's really, really good.
Thank you so much, Vice President
You're
Johnson.
welcome.
What did you present?
It was on book matching,
Nice.
on book matching.
I like
But
it.
what it devolved into was that a lot of librarians were having a big push-pull relationship with teachers' AR parameters. See the faces? They're like, mm-hmm. So it turned into like a therapy session over like how to interact with different AR expectations in each teacher's classroom. So it was a very good session. Yeah.
Awesome. Great work.
Oh, and wait, and I also presented another time on, I was a lit coach at a very large junior high. I had 72 teachers. And I started a program where this was the big Twilight craze. So I built a partnership with Barnes and Noble here and ended up selling, I think, like almost 1,000 books. And we read all 4 Twilight books, and I had it sold in English versions, Spanish versions, and Chinese versions. We had all different levels of reading clubs. We had parent reading clubs, kids, and all of that stuff. We took them to the movies. We had a full vampire prom. And it was just like, their reading abilities just went through the roof because they just couldn't stop reading, and it became like the cool thing and everybody was doing it. So that was a fun session too.
Nice.
Thank you.
Awesome.
If I'm,
Good.
thank you. I just want to follow up on something about group, like attendance, among the board members. I love, I love those recollections and encouragements to go. And I just want to say that it is, if you're wondering about Brown Act, it is okay for multiple board members to attend training sessions. There are some best practices if you do find that you are in training sessions with more than one other trustee and you represent a quorum. It's best practice, not to sit together, and it's best practice. It's certainly required that among you do not discuss things that might eventually become board business, right? So, and sometimes when you are doing visionary work, and exercises, that can be challenging if you are, sitting together and in the same breakout group or whatever. So there are some best practices, but there's no worry if 3 or more of you want to attend any of these. Thank you for that encouragement. That's a great description of it. And there are ways to participate and still honor the Brown Act. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Special item, strategic framework review and strategic responses update for February 2024. Would that be?
That's
Director
me
Stubb?
again.
Okay, all right.
You're almost done hearing from me tonight. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so every few months we gather together the data for since the last time we report out to you on our strategic framework and the ways we are responding to it. So any of these is just meant to go back to the last report and report out on sort of the wins and the high points of the ways we are meeting these responsibilities. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. Okay, so before we start getting into the responsibilities and the framework itself, just want to put a shout out to the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation. They are instrumental in a lot of what you are about to see. And if you want, in the director and division reports, we actually do have a little icon for the specific things that they do support. So if the public, any readers are interested in tracking what the foundation specifically supports, you can find that in the director and division reports. And just here, generally, we want to give them a shout out for all of their support. All right, next slide, please. So the first of our responsibilities in the strategic framework is to bring the world of ideas geographically closer to our users. Next slide, please. So here are some of the wins since we last reported out to you in October of 2023 about all of this. This is about the world of ideas being where our customers are. And we had a lot of cases where since October where community members connected with new, customized, organized, and expertly presented ideas, a variety of different kinds. They either brought the ideas here to Glendora and to the library so that customers could come and view them, or we took them out into the world where the customers are. Both ways is obviously all about bringing things nearby. So these events ranged anywhere from 14 attendees at our Chamber of Commerce morning mixer to 200 attendees at our model train layout, and lots of different ones since October. Next slide, please. All right, some other wins in this idea of bringing the world of ideas nearby. As we mentioned already tonight, we took a listening habits and needs survey of our community members regarding music. And also we are going to continue to be able to provide our professional library services out in the community at the school district, because the city did pass its citywide memorandum of understanding with the Glendora Unified School District. The library agreement portion of that is the same as it was originally approved by the Board of Library Trustees. It just now comes under an umbrella agreement with the district. Next slide, please. Okay, some other things that we have done in terms of bringing the world of ideas nearby. The environment, the building itself, of course, is part of this, is all about a gathering place where people can come and be nearby the resources, but also each other and build on the world of ideas. And the city council, since we last met in October, and the public heard about the scope of the library building projects, related projects at other facilities, and the funding options, and also the polling. And since that meeting with the city council, I've been working with city administration and the city survey company to create some polling to test how the public feels about some funding initiatives. So that is well on its way. Next slide, please. Okay, also more about the gathering space, which is such a big part of how we bring the world of ideas nearby. Some of those improvements include the mobile shelving units that were unveiled since we all saw you in October. And that enabled us to really give a whole new look and feel to the central part of the main floor, and also released some other floor space that we are now sort of expanding into with some seating areas, so that there's a much more fluid and sort of almost bookstore-like feel to the library, rather than being shelving with a big dining hall in the middle. So please come check it out if you haven't seen it already. And also we have now our new Xerox copy machine is there to help customers get those jobs of theirs done. And we're still working on the Apple Pay and credit card features for that. All right, next slide, please. More about, and as you can guess, since you know so much about the building and its challenges, this is a big chunk of where we put a lot of our time when it comes to providing what we call proximity services or bringing the world nearby. That building takes a lot of effort. And there are lots of ways since October that we have made it a safer and cleaner space for the public, ranging from putting out emergency supply toolboxes around the main floor in case our staff are not in their offices when an emergency strikes and they need that kind of resource, all the way to participating in the Great Shakeout event and an emergency operations center practice activation. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next of our responsibilities is about making sure that that people develop the skills they need to be able to interact with the world of ideas. This is commonly known as various kinds of literacies. Basically, the idea is that you don't stop learning about the ways you interact with the world of ideas just because you've learned how to read. It goes beyond childhood. It's all stages of life where this is important. Next slide, please. So in terms of making the world of ideas lifelong, some of our wins since October include lots of events where we offer maintenance and improvement of reading skills and habits, where we celebrate recreational reading, we build confidence in reading, greater content knowledge, and we have, over 600 participants in our In and Out Cover to Cover program in the fall, over 200 at our Winter Discovery Challenge. Next slide, please. So other things we do in terms of this lifelong development of skills, in this case, the critical thinking and problem solving skills, creativity, various literacies, also the development of some motor skills, a variety of events and programs that supported all of that. Everything from kind of intimate groups that we have monthly that introduce youth to Dungeons and Dragons, to over 300 participants at a science program, to 600 participants at the Ginger House decorating party in conjunction with Recreation and Human Services. Next slide, please. All right, so the next responsibility is about the idea that no matter how many skills you learn, all of our bodies and our brains are different. And so we need to make sure that all of them have access to the world of ideas. Next slide, please. So since October, we have adapted our library document station area to be more accessible by switching out in installing some height adjustable tables to make that more usable by all the members of our public. Next slide, please. All right, so shifting now from the human side of the equation a little bit to the data side of the equation, just in terms of the ideas themselves, is that they do outgrow their packaging, and one of our responsibilities is to make sure that ideas don't disappear just because their packaging goes outdated. Next slide, please. So in terms of our project that so far has been known as the Community Archive, we are still progressing on that since October. That will provide increased access to information, usable digital resources, and centralized records, especially regarding historical assets. So they're choosing which ones are going to be made available next, looking at both the libraries and the city's platforms for that, and looking at some project funding for that next stage. Next slide, please. And those ideas also become more disorganized over time, and we need to help control the chaos. Next slide, please. So some of the ways that we've been doing this since October is that we have been organizing some of the Glendora's historic information in new ways, connecting the past to the present. There's a new driving tour now online at the Clio called Glendora's Haunted Past. We have also updated the website pages for Glendora History, the e-library, and youth resources to make those more usable and more organized. And also our integrated library system. This is like our little mini version of the city's enterprise system that I mentioned. Our integrated library system was upgraded to a new version as well. Next slide, please. Okay. Another thing about about ideas is that they are subject to interpretation and to context, and can be variably accurate, differently perceived, and influenced by outside factors. So next slide, please. We are always trying to offer to put the world of ideas into context for our customers, give them the skills to do that themselves. This time since October, we did a peer-led training session during Staff Development Day that taught our staff more about researching, about internet searching, and about how to really sort of assure the best chance at valid information retrieval. Next slide, please. And information, ideas, it's basically, they are subject to a lot of the same factors as physical property. I call this cognitive property, and they can be bought, they can be sold, they can be stolen. And so we try to acknowledge that ideas have value and try to protect them in every way. Next slide, please, that we can help with. Since October, one of the ways we have helped with this is provided a program on practical strategies and tips to defend your data. The information about you has value, and people do, as we all know, try to steal it. So we did have a training session to help people address that aspect of the value of their own information and data. Next slide, please. Okay, the world of ideas requires energy and material resources. So we're always on the lookout, next slide, please, for ways of being responsible about that. And we are, just since October, we've just been continuing that process. We don't really have anything new to report in this very sort of long-term framework responsibility. Next slide, please. And finally, we always wrap up with the things we do in administration just to clear the way to make all that other stuff happen. Next slide, please. In order to provide all of this access to human expertise to our gathering places, we have to manage our budget. And so since we last saw you, we did do our mid-year budget updates for the city for this current fiscal year. Those were submitted in January. We'll be meeting about those very soon with city administration. And we are about to move into the next fiscal year's mid-cycle budget process with the city as well. Next slide, please. Again, along the lines of having more access to expert help, we did bring on board a new part-time librarian one, Christina, as we welcomed her on board since we saw you last. And we are also, because we do have a swath of vacancies at the Library Aid 1 level, we have been working with the with human resources on a variety of strategies to help with that. One of them is the city has a pool of office aides, and they are helping us keep the public content accessible and organized by doing things like reshelving, helping with that until we get our new library aides hired. Trying to be as creative and responsible as we can to make sure all of that is happening. And then we did hold a full day staff development day since we last met. The city manager was part of that. We did some work on storytelling and communication and worked on some customer service techniques. So that's what we've been up to since October, viewed through the lens of our responsibilities that are outlined in our strategic framework, and are happy to answer questions or get answers to them if we don't have them for you tonight.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Thank you, Director Stone.
You're very welcome. Thank
It was
you.
a very thorough presentation. Thank you. So next is the consent calendar for items number 5 and number 6. Items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless a board member has requested it be removed for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on any consent calendar item? Right. Like to request a motion to approve the consent calendar.
We have a motion by trustee Chu and seconded by trustee Tolan. I will now conduct oral roll call. Trustee Chu? Aye. Trustee Tolan?
Aye.
Vice President Johnson?
Aye.
President Landman?
Aye.
Let the record show motion carries 4-0.
Okay, do any trustees or staff have any questions or closing comments this evening?
I'd like to make a comment on ALA attendance. So with conferences, they have different rates depending on when you sign up and different categories. So for trustees, the early rate is $260 for the conference if you register before March 31st. Whereas if you're just a regular ALA member, early registration is 410 and non-members are 550 and it goes up to 720. So the trustee rate is very low for what you get. And I would advocate that if you're going to be sending staff, the decision has to be made sooner than later. And has there been discussion on this of sending staff members to ALA and funding that?
Yes, absolutely. The managers are looking into the like the feasibility of how many, what levels, you know, what parts of the conference and that sort of thing. Absolutely. Yeah, we're on it.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Any staff? Anything? Okay, so just another reminder, March 8th is going to be the Great Trivia Challenge over at Foothill Christian School on Baseline. And it will be at 6 o'clock until, I don't know if it has an end time or not, but you know, till there's a winner, I guess. But there will be all the proceeds from this event will go back to benefit the library, and it's put on by the Glendora Friends Foundation. So it's $25, and plus you get, besides enjoyable entertainment, very wholesome and everything, and then you get an In-N-Out feast. So that's very nice. Okay, so I would like to adjourn the meeting at 8:06.